Hello, everybody. I am back with Chris from Warcradle, and in this one, we're going to be having a bit of a chat about the design of some of the stuff that's coming in the new two-player starter set for Wild West Exodus. Chris, pleasure to have you on the show again, mate.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be here, Justin.
In the last video, we did a bit of a deep dive on what's coming in the new two-player starter set. In this one, I know there's some stuff that's coming that's either a rework of something that's already existed, or you're actually taking like a legendary character and rolling them back. So I kind of want us to dig into that a little bit. You good for it?
Absolutely.
Let's dive straight in. So the first thing, obviously, is one of our bosses. We've got Eiffel. And so Eiffel, this is his legendary form. And in the game, he's big, he's nasty, he's in a mech. So what currently does he do on the tabletop, for anyone who doesn't know?
You know, this is almost like a centerpiece model for the Enlightened. It's big, it's really chunky. He's really difficult to take off the table because he's just tough. He's got lots of different weapons that he can draw on. He's pretty good at range, but he really excels up close. And you know, as a boss as well, he's adding his fortune to his posse, and you know that's you know what's great about him is like the anchor, if you like, to that force.
Right now, for the new player starter box, we have the new version. Obviously, we saw him in the last video, so we've got him on his little spider chair. Biggest question for me is, how do you take a character that's a legendary character and then sort of roll him back into, like, you know, Bruce Banner?
The thing is, the legendary characters are a new, different version of the original characters. It just so happens that both Tesla and Eiffel only appeared in legendary forms, but just because of the way they were. They, you know, they're big, they're chunky, they deserve to have that legendary status. The new versions that we've got in the Showdown At Retribution set are, like you say, they're rolled back regular versions, not their final forms, and as a result, they need to feel similar in some ways to their legendary counterparts because they're the same character essentially. They're just physically slightly different. Eiffel is certainly very much a smaller version of his legendary self, so there are going to be some shared abilities that character has intrinsically, but there are going to be some differences. He's not quite as tough in his regular form. He doesn't have the hitting power that great big spider mech has got, but he certainly still got the pincers, the claws. He can certainly rip people to pieces when he gets up close, but he's also got a shotgun as well, which adds an interesting dynamic to the character. So yeah, there are going to be some similarities between the two, but essentially he's a lower powered version of the legendary status.
Now, would you have like a top tip for anyone playing Eiffel? Like, you know, that one key thing they should maybe be looking towards?
Mobility. Really, he's pretty quick. He's fast. So, you know, what we've given you in the box are fast units that can go with him. So make use of those strider cabs or the mono cabs, and you've got a really, really quick force that can get across the table in a very short space of time. Yeah, that's really the key for Eiffel.
Right. Well, speaking of the monocab, that's another one I wanted to talk about because it's one that you've resculpted from resin to plastic, and there is a big difference between the two. Here we can see your resin monocab.
That's right.
It's big, it's chunky, it's armored, it's got big guns. You know, really, really scary piece of kit.
Yep.
And then whenever we look at the new version, it's been really streamlined. So a lot of that big, heavy armor plate is gone. The one thing I'm wondering for this is whenever you change the sculpt drastically like this for a miniature, does it change how you feel about how the rules should play for it?
No, it's more the case that the role is already predetermined and the old miniature doesn't really fit that role as well as the new one.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as if we have always wanted, well, it's not as if, it is the truth. We've always wanted the Monarch to be more like it is now. But there are two things. First of all, the sculpt is pretty old. You know, it's a good 5 or 6 years old now, and it was resin, which means you can't. There are certain things that not impossible to do in resin, but are more difficult to achieve. And I think the look that we have now in plastic really pushes the boundaries of what we're capable to do in that material. So this is essentially what we wanted. We've always wanted the Monarch to look like. You know, it's got that kind of look of speed. It looks like it could bob and weave around boulders as it's flying across the plain towards the enemy, firing those cannons at full blast. And you know, it's got that real Enlightened look to it without having to have, you know, those really kind of heavy boxy looking parts to it, which detracts from that feeling of grace and speed and agility that the Monarch should really have.
Well, I mean, it's something I think you guys have done really well. Is you've held on to that core aspect, that core design feel of the Enlightened with the redesign. But yeah, like you say, you've trimmed it down. It feels faster. I imagine this thing just bumping up and across rocks. You know, Union soldiers going, "What is that? Why is it fast? Why is it shooting? Cover now." Yeah,
exactly. And you know, and that's the beauty of the Enlightened. They've got these monstrous creations that. You know, if you look at the rider in the new version, it's very much the centerpiece of the model. It really draws your eye to the fact that you've got this human who's had his arms removed, locked in to the Monarch. You know, he's not getting out of there anytime soon. He lives within that case. That's his new body. So it's pretty dark, and and that's what the Enlightened are. Certainly the Enlightened in the Wild West are all about.
For a Union player, what should they be looking for with these things? I assume it's very quick getting across the table. How much of a punch does this thing have to it?
Well, the weapons are, I mean, this is a ranged unit. It's quick, so it's mobile, but it's also primarily a ranged unit. It can ram things, which is great. But it's not. It lacks the finesse of a true close combat unit. But those guns are going to pack a punch. So just take it down as quickly as you can, or run away from it if you can.
So run away from the engine-powered death machine with a guy on top.
These can come in units of 3 as well. So you know,
terrifying.
They're pretty cool.
One of the miniatures that I have always loved from the game has always been the Iron Horse. And it's one that you guys also did a major redesign to. So we can see the original one here. And we talked about it in the last video where this one, it's sitting down on the ground. You don't really have that sense of motion and speed. But that's not the only thing you changed about it, because the redesign on this, the new one, just looks so much lighter, so much sleeker as well. You know, really nicely done on this one.
Well, the Iron Horse is really iconic for symbolizing the technology that is available to people. It shows that you have this, you know, these jet bikes, and that's what it is. It hovers above the ground. And you don't get that feeling with the old miniature, because it's stuck on the ground. It's very heavy looking. It doesn't feel like that's going to go fast anywhere. It just feels like a big brick of resin. And what we wanted to do is give it a sense of speed, of mobility, of grace, and the fact that this is a bit of a high-tech piece of kit. And they are usable by a lot of different factions. So a lot of people can have these in their forces. They're not just limited to the Enlightened and to the Union. And the sprue that you get is a kit that allows you to build 3 different vehicles. The Iron Horse, the Iron Eagle, and the third option, and you've got different riders as well that fit the different factions. It's a great sprue that gives you different variety and different options. If you buy the 2-player starter set and you don't play Union or Enlightened, you've got some lovely miniatures in there, but there's a chance that you'll be able to use those the Iron Horse in your faction, in your force.
Yeah, I do remember seeing the Outlaws used to run these a lot. But again, this particular unit, it feels like a very fast fire support unit that you can just zip out to a place and just lay down heavy fire to like lock off areas of the board. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, they are. I mean, the Gatling guns are pretty much the most commonly found heavy weapon in the game. So they are, they're much heavier than your normal rifle, certainly more heavier than a pistol, but they aren't the be all and end all. It's not as if laying down fire from one of these is going to completely destroy a unit of riflemen, but it's going to cause them some problems, and they're going to take casualties from it. The same with characters. The thing with Wild West Exodus is, as we all know, a single shot could be a killing blow. So a Gatling gun can certainly do the job.
Whenever I used to play against Jerry, it's the one thing I always did. And even though I knew it mildly annoyed him, it was just good tactical sense. Buildings are your friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get in, get some cover.
Yep.
Okay, so those are the units I really wanted to talk to you about for the Enlightened. Now, the next up is Nikola Tesla. And the original for him, it does feel very big, very heavy, very like a chunky, heavy armored miniature.
Yep.
And it's really beautiful. But whenever you start looking at his new form, you've really sort of captured that essence of lightning that, you imagine him speeding across the battlefield a lot faster rather than going clump, clump, clump. I am big stompy robot.
Imagine the freedom that he now has. He's not stuck in this, plodding battle mech. But gives him loads of protection, obviously, and some lovely toys to play with, weapons-wise. But if you had the ability to engineer anything, it would be a battle suit that can fire lightning bolts at your enemies and knock people flying across across a room with one punch. So that's what he's got, and this battle suit does give him a slightly different play style. There are still some elements of Tesla that will remain, but he's quite good at close combat. He's got some ranged abilities now as well. Again, he's not quite as tanky as his legendary form, but he's really good fun. He's got lots of tricks up his sleeve.
See, it's the balancing point I always find is the legendary guys are really cool, but here's the thing: you gotta pay the points for them. You gotta pay whatever's going in to make them that good. And that stuff you're losing from the rest of your force. So having the option to run a similar play style while getting more of the other good stuff that you love in there, definitely worth doing.
Exactly. And it gives, if people like playing Union and they like Tesla, now they've got two different choices. If they fancy running a legendary Tesla posse, they can do so. If they want to run regular Tesla, they've got that option now as well. And that sculpt is one of my favorite in the box. It's a tough choice because there are some really nice miniatures in this box set, but I really like what the team have managed to do with Tesla. And some of he's probably our most ambitious miniature by far, because of the way he's designed the lightning, the way he's being held up by the lightning. It just looks really good, really impressive.
Now, one thing I do wonder about is, how do you guys handle the lightning mechanics within the game for Tesla now? So is it something that he's shooting out and is it bouncing off people, or is it just like a straight zap onto someone?
It's a straight discharge. So it's basically the excess energy that the suit's producing. He can expel it in an energy wave against his opponent. So again, it just gives him that versatility to be able to pull a few surprises out. But if he's not doing that, he's running in and smashing people in the face, which is always good fun.
I see. So for him, would it be pick your moment to go in and be a home wrecker and just rock in and just destroy everything?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the bosses are all about that moment. That this is my moment. I've drawn my action card with a 5 on it. I'm going to go to town with my boss. He's in the right position. The stars have aligned. and this is, I don't care if I win or lose the game, as long as I get that moment with my boss where he does a really impressive turn, I can happily and just say, yeah, that was good fun. Cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the things I know you can do in the game is, so it's miniature by miniature activation, but there's some of those guts and glory cards where it's just like, oh no, I'm going to activate something else now, and if you can chain something in there, could just be so beautiful to make like a big cinematic sweeping move on the board. Those are the moments in Wild West Exodus that I have always loved.
Yeah.
Right. The last one I really, really want to talk about is the Iron Eagle. So the Iron Eagle, the original miniature, like we talked about before, it is big, it is chunky, it is the armored coffin.
It's a brick.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like, how does that thing go anywhere?
Yeah.
It has the mobility of a paperweight, and that, that's what, immediately there's like, we can do so much with this. We can really do so much with this. And actually the reality of being so enclosed in a jet bike, it just didn't feel right. It didn't sit right with us. And we spent a lot of time going through a huge amount of different concepts that we come up with for the Iron Eagle. And what we've got is something that remains dynamic, that looks fast, that looks dangerous, but has still got that real chunky feel of having some additional armor and to withstand some serious firepower before it goes down. And I think, again, the team have done a great job with putting this together and getting the kit to work so that you've got these different variants on there. So, yeah, I'm really happy with the Iron Eagle, and we've got Tesla bots now as pilots on it. So, you can chop and change between a regular Union soldier and the Tesla bot. So, there's some when you have an army, if you wanted to do a full force, as I know you do, Justin, of jet bikes led by the lovely Willa Shaw, then
I still have her miniature, which I haven't finished painting. So bad me.
That's something that you can do, and there are things that you can do to customize those and make them all look slightly different. And who knows, there might be even some different bits coming out in the future that will even increase your ability to do so.
See, this is one of those things. Whenever I'm enjoying a game, sometimes I'll go, what is the most ridiculous thing I can put down on the tabletop? And back then when I was thinking about that, I was just like, well, how many of these like Iron Horses or Iron Eagles can I get down on the tabletop? And just how many Gatling guns can I be firing at my opponent? You may find out in the future.
Yes, I hope so.
Well, I mean, overall, from what I see, the design shift aesthetic that you guys seem to be going for is getting those senses of movements, making the models feel like they should narratively be doing what the rules are making them do on the tabletop. And I think it's a really cool thing to see you guys doing that. So I'm very impressed. The big question will be is whenever we actually get to start digging down into the actual rules for each of the two factions in the box, because I'm very curious just to see what the nitty gritty is for each one. You know me, I am the metagamer. I love just all of the hard stats, the numbers, figuring out what can I do that's just fun. And yeah, oops, I broke Gary's nose. But no, it's very cool, and I'm really, really happy to see it. Is there any other miniatures in the box that the design you're just super, super proud of that you would like to talk about what you were thinking about while you were designing them?
The Tesla bots, they're really nice. For me, I just look at them and I think I just want to have an army of these guys, and Tesla at the front throwing bolts of lightning about while you've got electro carbines firing. I just think it's great. You've got an option there to go close combat. The shields give them much more survivability so that they can get in close and start really smashing some people up. And they have similar effects between the two different weapons that they can carry, but it just means that you've got some different options with them. So having a full army of Tesla bots for me is something I'm planning on doing.
Now you see, the only thing I can really compare them to from the range that you've already done would be the GI bots.
Yes.
So having a look at the original GI bots, they are a really nice design. They've got that real human-esque feel. They've got a good sense of motion to them. But then you look at the Tesla bots, that there's a real shift away from that like rougher armor style to something a little more organic, a little more rounded. Was that a very deliberate thing whenever you were going through the design process for them?
Yeah, because these are a refined version. These are an updated version of those original bots. So the automata that were used in great number in the All War were mass produced, were brought out, to be heavily armored, were a bit more clunky, were less sophisticated than 15 years later. Tesla's had more time to perfect his designs and come up with something that's truly a next generation of automata. And that's what they are. They don't look as heavy, but they still have a decent amount of armor, but they're just better designed. They're better constructed. They're the next generation, as I said, and that's what I like about it. It shows a real shift from those older versions to these newer ones.
See, I really do like the fact that the narrative is playing out in the Warcradle Studios, saying, well, how would it advance? How would it change? And that's the thought process that's going into creating new miniatures like that, which is, it's very cool, because you can imagine, Nikola Tesla in his workshop with one of the old bots looking at it going, can I do better? How can I make you better? And actually just talking to the bot.
Yeah. And that all comes from the fact that the same team who write the backgrounds write the rules. So everything is intrinsically linked between the two things. And in fact, the concept for all the miniatures, it all comes from the same core in the studio. And that means that there's always that thought process. Why is this design like it? Why does it look that way? What's its appeal? What's its function? How are we going to make that function obvious from the way it appears on the battlefield? So I mean,
it's something that it's a question that every single designer goes through, is how do I make this play and look like it should, to make the two marry together? And I think you guys have done a really, really fantastic job. All right, well, everybody, I tell you what, drop your comments in below. Tell us what you think of some of the new designs coming out for Wild West Exodus. Myself and Chris will move on, and we will see you again very soon.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.